introduction to the practical coursework for PHYS050, Physics 1. So for a variety of reasons, partly due to the number of COVID cases, we've moved some of the practicals fully online. I mean, next semester you'll have engineering modules, and there'll be practical experiments there, and I believe that all the engineering modules will be running physical experiments in the kind of real lab. Okay, so here I'm just giving an overview of what the lab's going to be like. So all the information is going to be driven off the DLE. So there's a document telling you a bit about the overview of the practical labs. Here's a document that contains the groups to practicals. So I put all the students into different groups. Groups are typically 4 students. And okay. So let's look at the information. So the experimental computer labs contribute 30% of the total mark for this module. The labs are done roughly with 4 students. The list of groups on the DLE and contact information with your official university email address. And the submission of the coursework via the DLE. So as usual, there'll be a single deadline for all the lab sheets, Thursday the 16th of December at 1 o'clock. And so I've released one lab sheet we'll just look at next. And then you do that, and maybe in about a week's time I'll release another one. So the first thing to do is to contact your group members to arrange a meeting. I've created a page here on, even though you can meet physically, I suggest you do that, but it's also good to get in the habit of using techniques like Microsoft Teams to coordinate your work. And you can use things like WhatsApp groups and stuff, but it's much easier to use better things like Microsoft Teams, where you have a chat function and you can also upload files. That's particularly important in case somebody disappears. One important thing about the groups is I put people in groups, but sometimes people withdraw from the university or they just disappear, and it could be that you can't contact one of your group members. And unfortunately, this is the way it is. They could also be ill for a little while, they're not answering their emails. But when you actually fill in the marked sheets, you should only put on it the students who've actually contributed to the project. If you've not been able to contact anybody, if one of your group members is not answering email or not answering Zoom messages, then you just don't put them on the document, and they're not included in the work. And it could be that you find that even though on paper you're in a group of 4, that maybe you end up just on 1 because nobody contacts you. Then you should email me, Craig, and I will put you in another group. Okay, so what are the worksheets like? So they're driven by Excel spreadsheets. So you have a name, student ID, and there are computer simulations, which we'll look at in the next thing. This sheet has 10 marks. So you fill in the table here with the results. That tells you the amount of marks. And then sometimes there's written explanation required. And then later here's another simulation. And here you have to fill in the table and also provide a screenshot. The screenshot you can just upload to the DLE. Okay, so let's look at the simulations. So the first simulation is using a virtual lab. So the idea is to essentially measure a mass and a volume to compute the density and identify some metals. So you can bring in a scale, collaboration. You can bring in glassware. Please read the instructions, and the thing will weigh it. Go back to the stock room here. So I don't actually do water. You can kind of pour water in. Okay, so we poured some water in it and we measure it. So read the assignment. Actually, the assignment here is actually to look at metals, and you're going to measure a specific volume and then take the weight of it, take the mass of it. and from that you can kind of compute the density. The other simulation is here, and this website is in the Excel spreadsheet. So I ask you to click on this button here to bring it into 2 paces, and then it's just to give you some insight into the difference between linear dimensions and area. Right, that's fine. So you fill in the numbers, and then there's you submit it to the DLE, and there's as I say, a single deadline. So as usual, I mean, there's a single deadline in 16 December, Thursday at 1 o'clock, and there's a submission area, and there'll also be the spreadsheet will be available. I just need to upload that. So what happens with the way the worksheets are marked? The worksheets are marked individually, so I give a mark to the worksheet, and then I distribute the marks over the students who've listed on the sheet. There's probably going to be 4 different projects. There's going to be this measurement worksheet, which you just looked at, using some video analysis software, another simulation project, and then finally a project using mobile phones, using the sensors of the mobile phones. And typically the idea is that these things, typically if you're doing physical labs, each one of these worksheets would take roughly an hour, so they're not meant to be huge projects, they're just meant to be little snapshots. And the 20-mark ones should take sort of 2 hours. So they're not meant to be huge projects in either way. And there should be written information. Okay, that's all I wanted to say.